There are breakouts taking place around the world. Are there any particular places where you're seeing ultimately a lot of strength going forward?
Well, it's good to be here. Thank you for having me again. Well, I just heard what Stephen said, and I would agree with him when he said there's a lot of investor interest. That is something I agree with, because we've seen so much liquidity, especially in the last 5 years, and especially in the last 2 years coming into the markets. Where I don't agree so much is that we don't think that the worst is over yet. We think that the investors, especially from the Asian point of view, are very, very sentiment driven. We have the feeling that they're not really looking into long-term fundamentals, but they're letting them being moved by daily news. So if we have seen, so many good news in the past 2 years, however, in the last 6 months, they've heard bad news, they've traded on that. In the last few weeks, actually in the last 2 months, and going forward, it looks like the Fed, from the investor's point of view, that the Easter raise has helped, and it looks like we're going to have a nice, easy rebound. We don't see that. We think this is going to be a long-term recession, which is going to be much longer than what we saw in 2001 and 2002.
Nico, hi, this is Christine. You had lots of concerns about exporters slowing down here in Asia, but if you look at data from Japan and as well as Singapore, the export theme seems to be pretty strong. Would you still be bullish on a sector, or would you stay cautious?
On exporters, I would stay very cautious, and I mean, GDP from Japan came out stronger than expected. We, however, think that also the economists, they were trying to reduce their forecast so much that any, in order to project, see positive numbers. However, we saw Nissan and Toyota, both, some of the main exporters from Japan, coming out and lowering the profit margins or the profit forecast for 2008. So we would stay away from exporters. We, also coming back to this decoupling or recoupling, we think that you could see some local oriented demand stocks maybe do better, but stay away from the exporters.
Stephen, so Nico's a little bit less optimistic than you are, to put it mildly. I mean, what I seem to come back to are the commodities.
Yep.
Nobody's really told the commodity sector yet that we could be heading towards this this potential slowdown that some people like Nico are still looking for, and looking for it to get a lot worse as well. And yet, at the same time, we see some of these very large companies selling out of stakes. We see, a lot of movement in commodities too. When do you think that we will see the commodity story starting to properly turn back?
In terms of the hard commodities, I don't see it turning back. There will be dips, but that's just an opportunity to go and buy more. And I think we go back to the fact that many of the main miners, their share price has not necessarily appreciated as much as the core product that they dig up. So I think they have ways to catch up, and I think you're looking at risk of China getting involved in BHP. BHP still chasing Rio. Rio may be thinking about Anglo. So all the way down the line at the top level, there is merger and acquisition activity that is likely to happen. And so you go down to the smaller chain, the junior miners who we know dance around the main ore bodies, they're still looking to find buyers to come through for them. For the soft commodities, there may be some backup. I think you're seeing that the sort of tension that was in the rice market is being released. My worry, though, is with corn, because next year, looking at USDA figures, you're going to have far more going towards ethanol than we'd seen previously. So I think that corn could still be a soft area to go through. So generally, I still think the commodities is a main place to be.
Nico, I guess I'm just thinking along the lines of, well, if we start to see the dollar coming back in the second half of the year, doesn't that necessarily mean that commodities are going to come down? What's your commodity strategy?
Well, on the commodities, it's always a question of demand and supply, and also some of the ones which you see as a hedge towards inflation. If we look at oil, I've always been very, very bullish on oil, and we still are long term. However, I think that the prices we're seeing recently has been pushed up a little too quickly. I think it's been a lot of hedge funds actually pushing up the prices. I think we're going to see a small dip in oil coming down, but I fully agree with Stephen. I believe that we're going to see a continuous trend upwards across the board on all commodities.
All right, Nico, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for being with us. Nico Haraji, CEO of N1 Asset Management. Stephen, thank you very much as well. Stephen Pope, Chief Global Market Strategist, Cantor Fitzgerald Europe.